بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has given us another day in our life. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the khair of this day and protect us from all types of evil. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. As we were discussing regarding the fast of those people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts and gives them the effects of the fast that they have performed. And we mentioned about 6 things that a person needs to be mindful of when he is fasting or when she is fasting, so that the reward of the fasting is earned, not just the fulfillment of obligation. So number 1, we mentioned about the protection of our tongue, which we are using at the time when we are fasting. Every statement, everything that we say, we have to be very mindful, not just while we are fasting, but also outside of our fast. The fasting exercise, which has been mandated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is an exercise to build the ability inside an individual that how can he stay away from these things throughout the entire year. So the second thing that a person needs to be mindful of while he or she is fasting is the protection of gaze. Now, of course, there is a component where the sight of a person should be protected from all the haram things, all the unlawful things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden. But at the same time, through the exercise of fasting, a person, for him is recommended to stay away from looking at things that can build a desire for him. So for example, even looking at food which is halal in the stage of fasting is considered to be karahiyah. Why? Because it can develop the want inside, the desire inside for a person to go and have for food. And then as a person starts to think about it, then his fast becomes makruh. As the fuqaha have mentioned, that if a person, he is being around the environment, unless there is a situation where a person knows that this will not have an effect in my life. And of course there is a reward for that also. A lot of people have a restaurant business. They are cooking food while they're fasting. Now, this is a greater sacrifice and they have to go through this. So this is a different scenario. But if a normal person just watching, and a lot of people have this habit that they just open up a video on YouTube or anywhere and then they start watching food being cooked. And the desire of that develops and so on and so forth. Or watching people eat food. And by watching them, a desire develops inside. So in fasting, during fasting, there is an exercise where you need to protect your gaze. Not only from those actions that are considered unlawful, but also from certain things that can develop the want inside, which is not appropriate for fasting. And ulama has mentioned that when you look at things, the sight of a person, it's the first step of want. When you look at something, after that, the like of that thing develops in your heart, and then now you want to go and get it for yourself. And when a person doesn't have control over his sight, then shaitan plays a very integral role in making him go astray. This is why it is mentioned in the hadith that a sight of a person is a deadly arrow of shaitan. And the person who doesn't control it, then shaitan can take him from all directions and it can ruin entire action of his. Allah Azza wa Jal addressing the believer, male and female, separately in this hukum. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. That, O believers, the male, protect your gazes. And O the believer, from the female, protect your gazes. Why? Because this gaze can be the means of many evil action coming into our life. And when a person protects his gaze, the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala develops inside is qana'ah, being happy and content. A lot of people have the habit of doing window shopping. You don't want anything from the store, you don't want anything from the mall. You go to the store and you start walking around all the aisles just looking at things. And at the end of the day, when you're walking out of the grocery store or at a shop, your entire cart is full, even though you didn't want anything. You didn't know you came with just to see. I'm just going to go and look around what's going on, what's new in the market. And you walk out with the entire cart full. Why? This is the desire. The minute you look at something, immediately shaitan develops the mind. Oh, no, you need this. This is important. You cannot live without it. You cannot survive without it. All these years, a person was surviving without it, but as soon as he saw it, now it became the one, and after that one changed into a necessity. Now he can't live without it. So protecting your gaze, it is something that can save a person from many harms. Ulama mentioned that when a person protects his gaze, Allah develops the nur in his eyesight. This is why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, when a person looks at someone that he is not allowed to look at, non-mahram, and he turns his gaze away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him such a light in his iman that he will feel the sweetness of it in his heart. وَجَدَ حَلَاوَتَهُ فِي قَلْبِي, that he will feel the sweetness of iman in his heart. He will feel that how his iman is protecting him, how his iman is safeguarding him. So protection of gaze increases the reward of fasting. Protection of gaze brings effect inside our fasting. Protection of gaze gives you the ability to make your ibadah solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So while we are fasting, we have to make sure that we protect our gaze. Do not put our gaze on things that are haram, and also stay away from looking at things that are not useful in our life. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a person stays away from things that doesn't concern him. This is from the beauty of Islam. Min husni individual, he leaves whatever doesn't concern him. People spend so many hours just browsing through different things, watching different videos. This is the time, the month of Ramadan is the time where we connect with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we connect with Allah azza wa jal. When we start to put our gaze in the right direction, ulama has mentioned, scholars have mentioned that when you start to look into the Quran and start reciting the Quran by looking inside the Mus'haf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala develops a nur in your light, in your eyes. Allah develops a nur in your eyes, and that nur becomes effective in your heart. So this is a practice that we need to develop in the month of Ramadan. So this is the second, number two. Number one was protecting our tongue, and number two is protecting our gaze. Inshallah, the next one we will continue to discuss that tomorrow. We ask Allah to grant us the understanding and the ability to practice. Amin ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha